Good morning, metalheads of the internet, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Metal Meltdown. Today I'd like to do something a little bit different. I'd like to talk to you about the power of heavy metal in media and pop culture. There is no greater tool for learning more about entertainment than entertainment itself, be it music, be it film, television, comic books, video games, live entertainment such as ballet, opera, Broadway musicals, stand-up comedy. You can be introduced to an entirely different thing simply by first enjoying a particular thing. For instance, there are hundreds of thousands, millions of people who were introduced to Iron Man first through the 2008 motion picture of the same name starring Robert Downey Jr. It did not matter that there were hundreds of thousands of millions of incarnations already existing of this character across multiple platforms such as comic books, duh, but also cartoons and video games and even a few television appearances. The version that everyone really came to know, at least within the past 15 years, is Robert Downey Jr.'s version. The same can be said for other MCU characters such as the Vision, Scarlet Witch, Thanos, Star-Lord, Moon Knight, and many more. And now that people are aware of these characters, they're now also interested in these characters. People want to learn more about their other adventures across the entertainment multiverse. More comics are being sold. More people are checking out, like, old cartoons and movies and TV shows on Disney Plus and Netflix and all that fucking shit. Playing, older video games that may or may not have featured these characters. Another great example is The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. These books existed for decades, long before I was alive, long before even Peter Jackson was alive, long before my father was alive, and he grew up reading these books. But the fact remains, most people who know The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit know them through Peter Jackson's Academy Award-winning films. The Lord of the Rings trilogy to this day is still regarded as one of the greatest film trilogies of all time, and The Hobbit, well, it made money. That's gotta count for something, right? Same thing goes for Harry Potter and the Chronicles of Narnia. I read all those books as a wee little babu baby, but I didn't really know much about them until I saw the Harry Potter and the Chronicles of Narnia films. Same thing goes for Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! I learned about, the games, the card games and the video games through the anime, through the TV series, through the movies. And yeah, I also learned about a lot of music through a lot of other things. And frankly, so did you. If you're the same age as me, if you were born in 1994, then the first time you probably heard Elton John was in the fucking Lion King. The first time you heard Celine Dion was probably in Titanic. The first time you heard Phil Collins was probably in Tarzan. And metal is no exception, ladies and gentlemen. If you're like me, then the first time you heard Slayer and Rage Against the Machine was very likely whilst playing Guitar Hero 3. The Guitar Hero series as a whole was immensely popular and incredibly instrumental to the continued development and popularity of rock and metal and alternative music in the late 2000s and in the early 2010s. To the point where young bands would have rather had their music debut in Guitar Hero rather than on the radio. Case in point, there's not a person alive who can confidently and honestly say they knew Dragon Force before Guitar Hero 3. At a certain point, big bands like Megadeth and Soundgarden were releasing music exclusively through the Guitar Hero franchise, and similarly, bands like Aerosmith, Van Halen, and Metallica were doing their own little Guitar Hero spin-off games which focused almost exclusively on their catalog, as did bands like the Beatles and Green Day through Rock Band. When a piece of music, when anything really, is interpreted or adapted into another form of entertainment, it immediately becomes way more accessible and therefore more likely for that original piece, for that original thing to become way more popular. Which is why the exact fashion in which metal is being currently represented and acknowledged in media is so exciting to me. There's an entire generation right now learning about classic rock and metal bands the same way that I kind of did 15 years ago, just through different media. And whether we want to admit it or not, this is ultimately how this music will survive. I mean, obviously seeing young rock and hardcore and metal bands, you know, fucking tour the world and sell records and win awards, obviously that's going to help a lot. But few people are really introduced to these young bands immediately. There has to be some kind of gateway, you know? For me, like I said, Guitar Hero 3 comes to mind. I didn't just learn about Slayer and Rage Against the Machine, I also learned about, you know, again, Dragon Force. But there's also, you know, Brutal Legend. I learned about a bunch of young and old bands through that game. And I also look back to soundtracks that I bought for older action movies, you know, other superhero movies like Spider-Man 2 and Daredevil, which featured artists who at the time were very young, you know, Rob Zombie, Evanescence, Nickelback, so on and so forth. The Daredevil soundtrack in particular, I jammed constantly. That movie might not have been a fucking hit, but that soundtrack sure as hell fucking was. And just like how the soundtracks to the Guitar Hero series and Brutal Legend and Daredevil were my kind of proper gateways, my proper introductions to a slew of hard rock and heavy metal bands, so too now is Stranger Things Season 4 to this generation of young rock and metal listeners. Specifically, a lot of young kids are being introduced right now to the one and only Metallica. It does not matter that Metallica has existed for up to 40 years already. It does not matter that they are the most instantly recognizable and commercially successful metal band ever, and perhaps rock bands ever. A lot of kids right now recognize Metallica not for any of those accomplishments, but for the inclusion of the song Master of Puppets in a pretty pivotal fight scene from Stranger Things Season 4. What is that exact fight scene? I honestly don't fucking know because I haven't seen it myself, but that alone speaks to the power of this one scene. I don't have to have seen it. I know that people are going apeshit over this scene and over the use of Master of Puppets in this scene. And this is apparently very upsetting to a slew of elitists and gatekeepers, and I kind of understand why. I mean, I don't, but I kind of do. Like, on some level, it just feels a little bit weird for a lot of people to just now be paying attention to Metallica. But, irregardless, they are. And that is objectively a good thing. Because people are going to look up the Master of Puppets song, and then they might look up the album, and then maybe they'll check out Ride the Lightning and Injustice for All, and then maybe they'll check out some other thrash metal from, you know, Megadeth and Slayer and Anthrax. And then they'll go further down that rabbit hole, and they'll check out Voivod and Creator, Sepultura, Destruction, Exodus, Overkill. And then they'll go further down and they'll discover Pantera, and they'll discover Cannibal Corpse and Obituary and Death, and then they'll go further down that rabbit hole again and they'll discover technical death metal and black metal and grindcore and avant-garde metal. How do I know this? Because that's literally what happened to all of us. Maybe not specifically with Stranger Things, but we all heard something somewhere, and we said, where does that lead to? And now here we are, doing this, because of course. On that same note, it's especially funny to see people try to gatekeep Metallica, be like, oh, well, I knew who Metallica were before Stranger Things, or, oh, well, these aren't true fans, they only heard of Metallica through Stranger Things. Because, like, nobody fucking cares. Like, congrats, do you want a medal or something? I mean, it got to the point where even Metallica had to kind of put out a statement on TikTok where they're just like, we don't really care how people discover Metallica. We don't care if it's through Stranger Things or through something else. Everyone's welcome in the Metallica family. I'm paraphrasing a little, which means, you know, we're gonna have to put that thing on screen, hence why I did that, but you get the idea. And the best part is, this isn't even the only recent inclusion of metal in film and television. Like, Marvel Studios just released Thor: Love and Thunder. And, you know, Taika Waititi, the director, has recently talked a lot about his love of, like, 80s glam and thrash metal, about his love of Guns N' Roses, Motley Crue, Anthrax, and all throughout Thor: Love and Thunder, those elements are there visually, they're shown represented in the violence as well, they're shown prominently in action sequences where multiple Guns N' Roses songs are played throughout the film. Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child of Mine, Paradise City, November Rain, even a Dio song, Rainbow in the Dark, makes an appearance in the very credits. And as a lot of these songs were playing, I was kind of looking around the room, and there were a couple people that hadn't heard these songs before. And when the movie, like, officially stopped, someone behind me went, damn, some of those songs were cool. I'm gonna have to check them out. And I just kind of stood up and went, you should, man. These are the names of the songs. These are the bands. You should absolutely go check them out. And he said, thanks, man. I will. And that felt really cool. Right now, Stranger Things and Thor: Love and Thunder are doing more for metal, more to keep it relevant and popular, than metal itself. Even movies about metal that have been released in the past few years, like Lords of Chaos, the Mayhem biopic, The Dirt, the Motley Crue biopic, Metal Lords on Netflix, even these movies, as successful, moderately so as they are, have not really exposed people to metal in the way that Stranger Things and Thor: Love and Thunder are doing right now. I will concede that I got really into Motley Crue again after watching The Dirt, and I will also concede that my sister-in-law got really into Norwegian black metal after having seen Lords of Chaos. But, yeah. The same, as far as I can tell, cannot be said for Metal Lords. But who knows? Maybe there's someone watching this video right now who learned about Judas Priest and Anthrax through Metal Lords. Who fucking knows, man? In conclusion, the role of heavy metal in pop culture, in film and television, in media is very, very important, integral to the success and the survival of this genre. It's also important to check out tons and tons of young bands and to explore as much music as possible and to watch lots and lots of the Metal Meltdown and other channels like Metal Trenches, Forge Master Metal Reviews, Pair of Jeans, Quest for Metal, Melanie Loves Death Metal, because we all talk about lots of different cool fucking music in our own unique ways. It's important to support all of that and several other channels, record labels, distros, because obviously that helps too. But, as far as I can see, it would be downright fucking foolish to not continue utilizing pop culture in some asset. To not continue using media and film and television and video games as a tool to get more people interested and involved with hard rock, heavy metal, and extreme music. It's possible. Several bands have proven that it is possible to make money and be popular and be metal at the same time, regardless of what gatekeepers and elitists would have you believe. So when Metallica is featured in Stranger Things, when Guns N' Roses and Dio are featured in Thor: Love and Thunder, when a band you love is featured in another form of entertainment, even if you don't necessarily love that form of entertainment, that movie, that book, that whatever, appreciate it, respect it, because that is the key to this genre's continued survival and development. No one is going to think that you're cooler or better than everyone else for constantly reminding people that you knew who some dorky 80s metal band were long before they were featured in a major motion picture. You will only succeed in pushing people away from this genre of music that you claim to love and want to protect. You don't like Stranger Things? Fine, don't like it. You don't like Thor: Love and Thunder? Fine, don't like it. Nobody actually fucking cares. You don't even have to like the bands that are included. But just, I don't know, bite your tongue. Shut the fuck up, I guess. Because if these things convince tons of kids to check out heavy metal and to go down that rabbit hole and to explore the genre and to learn about tons of new bands, then that's a win for us. Because that keeps the genre alive. That will keep it alive for years and years and years to come. And yeah, that's it. I think that's it at least. This was something I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit for a while. I hope you got something out of this. I hope that if you were maybe confused or upset by the inclusion of hard rock and heavy metal in Stranger Things, Thor Love and Thunder, and other things, maybe I've changed your mind a little bit or helped you to reconsider certain things. If not, well, whatever. Thanks for watching anyways, I guess. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, all that fucking nonsense. In fact, while we're on the topic, why don't you tell me about some cool moments where a song or a band or a genre you love was represented in film, television, comics, video games, something. Feel free to tell me if these incidences maybe convinced you to check out other rock and metal, because that would be great for me proving my argument, for validating the existence of this fucking video. And make sure you check out these videos right here, and as always, you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.